With a swift motion, he tilted her chin, his fingers gentle yet firm, a grounding force despite the storm swirling within her. The world around them faded, leaving only the rhythm of their racing hearts. Raelynn felt the warmth radiating from his body, an alluring embrace that whispered promises of safety amidst her fears. As his lips met hers, it was a gentle collision, a hesitant flicker, igniting into a blazing fire as their emotions cracked open. The kiss deepened, a fervor rising between them that held 1,000 unspoken words. Time seemed to suspend, and Raelynn surrendered to it, feeling the heat of his passion soak into her, unraveling the doubts that had weighed her down. In that fleeting moment, she wanted nothing more than to forget the chaos that lurked beyond the horizon, to anchor herself in his embrace, as if they could rewrite their realities altogether. As she pulled away, breathless, a new determination glittered in her eyes. "But what about our past, Braxton? All of this," she breathed, the remnants of the world creeping back into the edges of her awareness. "Let's create our own future," he replied softly, his eyes holding hers steady. "Together." The sincerity in his voice wrapped around her heart, a lifeline amidst the uncertainty, and for the first time in far too long, the walls she had so meticulously built began to crack. "Together," she echoed, a flicker of hope igniting behind her uncertainty. The stakes had elevated, but so had their burgeoning connection. Scene 42. Life or Death Decisions. The dense air was thick with impending rain as Raelynn Barrett paced the wide deck of the luxurious villa, the rhythmic crash of the ocean below pounding like the frantic beat of her heart. She wiped a bead of sweat from her brow, glancing toward Braxton Vale, who stood near the shadows of the adjoining room. His silhouette was striking, as always, but today it held an edge of fear that was unmistakable. "Are you sure we can trust them?" Raelynn asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The expression on Braxton's face hardened, dark shadows tracing the contours of worry etched deep around his eyes. He offered a slight shake of his head, fingers flexing at his sides as if preparing for a confrontation. "Trust isn't the issue, Raelynn. It's the choice. They don't know who we're really up against." Raelynn bit back a retort, the storm brewing outside mirroring the turmoil in her chest. The wind howled, whipping through the palm trees as if trying to warn them of the chaos brewing beyond the horizon. She swallowed hard, raindrops beginning to merge with the perspiration on her skin. "Then what do we do?" she asked, frustration slicing through her. "Stand here until they come for us?" "Listen," Braxton said, his tone softening slightly as the tension of the moment crackled between them. "We need to draw a line here. I can't have you putting yourself in danger because of misplaced trust." Her breath caught in the mesh of the unspoken. Raelynn knew she'd stepped further into danger by allowing her emotions to intertwine with her ambitions. And now, she had to make a choice that could shatter everything they had built. "You can't keep me at arm's length," she replied, her voice thick with urgency, pushing forward. "I won't let you push me away, not this time." Braxton closed the distance between them, a mere breath separating their bodies. "It's not about pushing you away, it's about keeping you safe." His gaze bore into hers, raw and intense, igniting the air around them. The world fell silent in the weight of his words. Thunder rumbled in the distance as she looked into his eyes, a storm brewing that had less to do with the weather and everything to do with their tangled destinies. There was a flicker of vulnerability deep within Braxton's steely exterior, an invitation or perhaps a plea. "I can't do this without you," Raelynn admitted, her heart racing. "We're in this together." And yet, as she spoke, specters of their past glided eerily through her mind, whispers of betrayal, shadows of treachery lurking just beyond the curtain. He moved closer still, his voice dropping into a whisper that curled around her like smoke. "Are you willing to sacrifice everything for this?" "Everything?" she echoed, a mix of determination and dread flooding her voice. "You think I haven't already? Every decision, every choice has led me to this moment." In that instant, between the looming thunder and the crashing waves, Braxton stepped forward and cupped her face, his thumb brushing against the line of her jaw. The warmth of his hand transported her, grounding her in an undeniable truth. Raelynn felt a spark leap between them, igniting the tempest of emotions that had been building for so long. "Then trust me, Braxton," she breathed, eyes glistening under the dimming light. Trust that I'll fight alongside you, not against you. Braxton leaned in, closing the gap, his breath mingling with hers, ocean air filled with a promise. It's not that simple, he whispered, right before he pressed his lips against hers. The kiss was electric, a mixture of urgent need and pent-up Pentecostal energy, pouring into one another like waves crashing violently on rocks. There were no secrets, no barriers left standing between them. Raelynn melted against him, fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt, drawing him closer still, as if they could dissipate the storm threatening to pull them apart. And just as the kiss deepened, something shattered in the distance, a window splintering perhaps, or the sound of betrayal helming forth, echoing the last vestiges of their stolen moment. Braxton pulled back, fierce and alert, regaining that impenetrable persona she had come to both love and fear. "Raelynn," he said, urgency flashing in his eyes, "we're out of time." The taste of him lingered on her lips, and for a brief moment the world outside ceased to exist. "Then we make our choice," she whispered, heart racing as the tempest continued to swirl around them. Scene 43. The Hidden Agenda. The sun dipped low on the horizon, brushing the sky with strokes of orange and violet as Raelynn Barrett meticulously arranged her array of art pieces in the gallery showroom. The air hung thick with the scent of fresh paint and polished wood, mingling with the anticipation of the evening's unveiling. She paused, placing a delicate sculpture of copper and glass down carefully. A fleeting sense of satisfaction stirred within her, interrupted abruptly by the weight of her thoughts. "Raelynn," called Marissa, her former mentor and a formidable force in the art world, as she glided through the doorway. "We've got a crisis." The urgency in her voice shattered the serene atmosphere, drawing Raylan's attention. "What do you mean?" Raelynn asked, her heart racing. She straightened, wiping her hands on her apron, colored with dabs of creative chaos. Marissa's expression shifted, her brow furrowing. "It's about the gallery's funding. There are whispers, discontent, people are planning to pull support." Raelynn instinctively clenched her hands. "But why? We just had a promising opening last month. The response was positive." "Positive, yes," Marissa replied, her voice taut. "But your name is tied to so many things. Your family history, your father's connections. They're questioning your loyalty." The mention of her family's past, a shadowy tapestry of betrayal and ambition, sent a chill through Raelynn. She crossed her arms defensively. "So what? We're running a gallery, not managing a legacy. I have worked too hard to be defined by someone else's choices." Marissa stepped forward, the air thick with tension. "I made choices too, Raelynn, and that's the point. Those choices don't just impact you. They impact everyone. You think you're separate from this? That you can isolate yourself from the repercussions? I'm not isolating myself. I'm focused." Raelynn snapped, her voice ringing against the gallery walls. Silence enveloped them, heavy and pulsing, before she lowered her gaze. "I just want to create beauty, Marissa. Is that so wrong?" Before Marissa could reply, a sudden burst of laughter echoed into the gallery from outside. It was the rich, buoyant laughter of Braxton Vale, mingling with the light-hearted teasing of their mutual friends, who were preparing for the evening's soirée. "Have you ever considered that maybe beauty is a distraction?" Marissa's words cut through the laughter, full of frustration and protectiveness. Raylan's jaw tightened as she heard Braxton's voice join in, lowering her tone. "I left them behind. I can't afford to let my past destroy what I've built. I owe it to myself and to everyone here." "Then you have to confront it. We can't just sweep it under the rug, or they will find it, and your reflection with it." Marissa's voice softened, a twist of empathy intertwining with concern. Raelynn inhaled sharply, the weight of their conversation settling over her like a heavy fog. "So I just let them define my every step?" "For now, it's about strategy," Marissa replied, the passion simmering beneath her words palpable in the air. "You have to accept that your relationship with your father and its shadows affect how others see you." At that moment, Braxton swung open the door, having won a playful debate with Jason over who would take the lead on the evening presentation. A confident smile washed over his face as he approached Raelynn, who stood silently in the middle of the room, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. "Hey, you look beautiful. What's going on?" he asked, his tone relaxed, yet alert, a man trained to notice subtle shifts. Before she could respond, Marissa interjected, "We're unraveling a bit of a scandal." Braxton's brows shot up. "Scandal? In art? I thought that was reserved for tabloids." He leaned against the doorway, his presence a blend of strength and ease. "Less the tabloids, more former friendships and loyalties," Raelynn replied, meeting his gaze with a mixture of defiance and vulnerability. "My past might jeopardize everything I've worked for, especially tonight." "What have you decided?" Braxton asked, his tone shifting, concern mingling with admiration. "I'm not hiding anymore," she declared, her voice steadying. "If they want an agenda, let them have it. I'll confront my past head-on." He stepped closer, filling the space between them with unspoken reassurance. "And I'll stand with you." As the laughter from outside rose again, mingling with the poignant undertones of resolve, Raelynn felt a warmth bloom within her, a promise of solidarity. Her heart swelled at the thought, holding on fiercely to the belief that beauty could exist, even amid chaos. "Good, because sometimes all it takes is a little rebellion," she said, her voice now a whisper, lingering in the air. Braxton nodded, a knowing smile breaking through the tension. "Just remember, rebellion looks best framed by art." As the distant laughter echoed one last time, Raelynn cast her gaze back to the arrangements, knowing that while the evening held the promise of stormy waters, her true masterpiece would be standing brave against the tide. Scene 44, Sibling Rivalry. The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the sprawling terrace of Braxton Vale's estate, illuminating the tension that hung thick in the air. Over the gentle sound of waves lapping against the rocks below, Wolfgang leaned against the rail, arms crossed, his posture rigid. His piercing gaze lingered on the horizon, but it was Braxton standing to his right that occupied most of his thoughts. "Did you ever think you might share some of your astute observations, brother, instead of hoarding them like a dragon guards its gold?" Wolfgang's voice was cool, edged with disdain. Braxton slowly turned, his jaw clenching imperceptibly as he regarded Wolfgang, who looked increasingly like a man caught between rage and regret. "You wouldn't understand if I did. You never see the bigger picture, do you?" Raelynn Barrett stood a few steps away, her heart racing at the sight before her. She could feel the delicious tension crackling between the two men, the air thickening with unsaid grievances. It sent an electric chill down her spine, her mind swirling with conflicting loyalties. Both brothers held fiercely onto their pride, their stares both an attack and a shield. Wolfgang scoffed, the sound sharp against the soft whispers of the ocean. "Spare me your self-righteous epiphanies, Braxton. You've been so busy protecting your precious reputation that you've forgotten how to be a brother. Maybe if you hadn't made a habit of running away every time things got tough," Braxton shot back, the heat in his voice softening as he stepped closer. "I wouldn't have to carry the burden alone." At those words, the air shifted. Wolfgang's eyes narrowed, a flash of hurt replacing the veneer of confidence. "You wanted to be the hero. Don't pretend like I had a choice." Raelynn clenched her hands, watching with bated breath. The intimacy of their fight drew her in, making her feel acutely aware of the heat radiating from Braxton, his broad shoulders taut with unyielded feelings. "You think you're the victim here?" Braxton stepped forward again, this time with intent. "You abandoned us when we needed you most." The accusation hung like smoke, acrid and thick. Wolfgang's breath hitched, the weight of the brothers' past pressing down on both of them. Raelynn could sense the fragile thread of connection unraveling. Yet, within that delicate tension was a gravity that drew her toward Braxton, his fierce vulnerability making her heart race. "Enough," Wolfgang barked, then softened, his eyes darting between Braxton and Raelynn, as if pleading for understanding. "Enough of this. You think I wanted to disappear? Do you think it's easy to fight when you're not even sure who your allies are?" As Wolfgang's voice broke slightly, Raylan's heart ached for him. Uncertainty danced across her mind. She had been so focused on her own entanglements with Braxton that she hadn't considered how fractured their familial bond ran. "Maybe it's time to stop running," she suggested, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Face the pain instead of drowning in it." The brothers exchanged a loaded glance, heated words dying in their throats. Their differences had been drawn in stark lines, but now they stood on common ground. united by the unrelenting ache of their past. A tense silence enveloped them, thickening with the intensity of realization. Braxton looked at Raelynn, his expression flipping from anger to admiration, the warmth of his gaze igniting something deep within her. It was not just the fierce charisma he wielded effortlessly, there was something inherently softer, more intimate beneath the surface. Just then, Wolfgang broke the silence with a shuddering breath. Maybe you're right. His gaze lingered on Braxton, vulnerability flickering momentarily. But if things are going to change, we can't continue pretending. Not anymore. Before the gravity of that sentiment could settle, Raelynn felt the world slide into focus. Braxton instinctively turned toward her, their eyes locking in a moment heavy with tension and unspoken desire. The distance between them blurred. Raelynn, his voice dropped to a husky whisper laced with urgency, the moment stretching between them like a taut string ready to snap. She stepped forward instinctively, her heart pounding in an intoxicating rhythm that matched his gaze. The world faded, noise and anger retreating until it was just the two of them, lost in a swirling sea of longing. In one swift motion, Braxton closed the distance, his hands curling around her waist, pulling her into him. The electric charge sparked again, igniting the air around them. Their mouths met like two planets colliding, fiery and demanding. She melted against him, feeling warmth flood through her, the tension of the moment suffusing her with every heartbeat. The kiss was both a reckoning and a promise, a chaotic symphony playing out with raw emotion. As the world dissolved into a warm haze, everything else faded away. Wolfgang's lingering resentment and deep-rooted rivalry, the murmur of secrets to be uncovered, and the heavy weight of choices still hanging before them, vanished into the backdrop. With a lingering glance, Raelynn pulled away, breathless, her heart racing not just from the kiss, but from the silent acknowledgement of all that lay ahead. Maybe it's time we all found a way back together. And in the twilight, surrounded by both brothers with their tangled fates, the sound of chaos faded for just a moment, promising change in the depths of vulnerability. Scene 45. A dangerous face-off. Raelynn Barrett stood at the edge of the secluded cliff, the churning sea below a stark contrast to the calm she fought to maintain within. The golden rays of the setting sun wrapped around her, but they did little to relieve the chill of her rising apprehension. She inhaled sharply, salt water stinging her nostrils, sensing the weight of Wolfgang's presence looming behind her, a dark cloud ready to eclipse the waning light. "Raelynn," he began, his voice smooth yet edged with an undercurrent of menace, "you shouldn't be here. The view is too breathtaking for someone burdened by doubts." The days of sweet talks and charming manipulations felt like ancient history. She turned, her heart hammering in her chest, brazen challenge glinting in her eyes. "And yet, here I am, Wolfgang. I can't ignore the feeling that you've woven a tangled web around me." Wolfgang's smile danced dangerously across his lips. "Tangling? Oh, I prefer to think of it as strategic positioning. Aren't we all players in this game?" He stepped closer, the distance collapsing under the weight of his unyielding gaze. "But I assure you, my intentions are well-intentioned. Do I have your trust?" The question hung in the air, the silence thickening like fog encasing the world. Raelynn could almost hear her heart, wild and fierce, daring her to voice her truth. She resisted, however, instead choosing to measure her thoughts carefully, like precious gems on display. "Trust?" she echoed, dismissing his charm with an airy laugh that belied her nerves. "Does trust also come with the thought that you've been maneuvering behind the scenes?" Her voice lowered, cutting like a knife. "We both know you're not above leveraging my past." "Your past?" Wolfgang's brow arched, amusement etched into his features. "Ah, yes, the illustrious saga of the Barretts. So entertaining, yet so antiquated. Why allow it to retrieve you when the future gleams so brightly?" Raylan's fury flared, igniting the darkness, threatening to wash over her indecision. "You call it entertaining? It's my life, and you've made it your business to invade it." The waves below crashed in a synchronizing rhythm, a cacophony punctuating the tension that hung like a taut wire between them. Wolfgang stepped closer, invading her space in a way that was both intimidating and intoxicating. "You're stronger than that. Don't you want to embrace the opportunities before you? You could be the golden key in this elite world. We could reshape it together." Raelynn shifted her weight, muscles straining against the urge to recoil. I don't want, she started, but Wolfgang's intensity swallowed her words. She could sense the battle of wills at play, their desires colliding within the fragile air. I know what you want. You want autonomy, confidence in yourself, he interrupted, eyes narrowing slightly, almost assessing her like a hawk readying to strike. But in order to walk that path, sometimes we need the shadows to reveal the light. Suddenly, the breeze picked up, carrying whispers of the island's secrets through the air. Raelynn, emboldened by his close proximity, yet aware of the abyss threatening to ensnare her, took a step back, breaking the spell. I will not be your pawn, Wolfgang. The cold wind seemed to shield her from the encroaching darkness. She stood tall, reflecting the sun's fading light in her determination. You won't manipulate me or my family's history to further your agenda. At that, Wolfgang's demeanor shifted, revealing a sharp edge glimmering beneath his polished exterior. You act as if you have a choice. You're already entangled, Raelynn. You think walking away will spare you from the stakes? This isn't just business to me, Raelynn asserted, her voice unwavering amidst the growing storm. This is my life. Wolfgang's smile faltered, an unsettling tension creeping in. Then we both know there's no escape. The air thickened with challenge, a palpable energy resonating between them, a dangerous allure laced with fierce independence. Raelynn could feel her resolve strengthening, yet uncertainty churned beneath her fervor. She knew the stakes, but she also knew the truth held power. Be careful how you play your cards, Wolfgang, Raelynn warned, her voice a low piano tone amidst the tumultuous waves. Some people might call your bluff. Wolfgang's eyes darkened, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, a warning that simmered just beneath the surface, igniting the friction neither had anticipated but both couldn't ignore. As tension crackled, it felt as if the world had narrowed to this moment, threaded with choices yet to be made. Scene 46, Escaping the Trap. Raelynn stood on the manicured terrace of the opulent estate, the evening sun bleeding fiery hues across the horizon, casting long shadows that danced ominously on the sleek marble floor beneath her feet. The vibrant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from the gala inside felt like an echo of a world she couldn't fully inhabit, each note taunting her with memories of a past she was desperately trying to escape. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and something more ominous, as if the fragrance were laced with a reminder of danger lurking beneath the surface. Braxton, she breathed, her voice barely rising above the murmurs of guests converging around the grand entrance. Her eyes darted to the sleek, darkened windows, nervous energy thrumming through her. We should. It's just the storm, he cut in, his tone steady, but the tension roiling in his chocolate-brown eyes told a different story. He leaned in closer, their foreheads nearly touching, the intensity of his gaze sending tremors down her spine. You have to trust me. Silence hung between them for a heartbeat, and Raelynn found herself lost in the depths of his expression. He was resolute yet vulnerable, like the stillness before a storm that masked its fury. The hushed whispers from the gathering grew louder, waves of unease washing over her as two figures began to push their way through the crowd, their grim expressions foreboding. How long can we keep this up? Raelynn murmured softly, knowing he heard her deeper fears resonating beneath the surface. Braxton's jaw clenched, and he cast a quick glance over his shoulder. We won't have to for much longer. Just stay close. His hand found her wrist, a warm anchor in a tumultuous sea of uncertainty. Across the terrace, a group of art patrons erupted in laughter over an anecdote, their faces illuminated in a brief moment of joy, unaware of the impending chaos. Suddenly, shouts pierced the laughter as a young man stumbled back, his glass shattering against the floor. You think you can just use me? Enough, barked a statuesque woman with short-cropped hair, her eyes blazing with fury. You've been sleeping around, and now you want to ruin this event? Raylan's heart raced. The air had shifted, suffused with palpable tension that threatened to erupt. She glimpsed Braxton's clenched fists, his protective instincts blooming fiercely, and in that moment, she could feel the thrumming vibe of life, the humans spiraling in their own intricate drama just beneath the surface. Keep your cool, Raelynn, Braxton whispered, his grip tightening slightly, an unspoken agreement that whatever happened next, they would stand together. The tension escalated further as voices surged, accusations layering atop each other like chaotic brushstrokes on a canvas. Raelynn caught snippets of hurtful phrases darting through the air: betrayal, disloyalty, until a man clad in a tailored suit with a striking resemblance to a tawny lion stepped forward, eyebrows furrowed and face pale. "Who threw that drink?" he roared, and the noise of shuffling guests went hushed in an instant, the calm punctuated by the high-pitched clinks of glass still settling among the chaos. All eyes turned to the ruckus, tightening the spotlight on the exposed drama fluttering around her. "Let's get out of here," Raelynn urged quietly, recording every micro-expression on Braxton's face, every minor twitch of his jaw like a landscape of unvoiced thoughts unfolding. "Not yet," he replied, his voice low and fervent. He scanned the growing crowd of angry patrons, his instincts urging caution. "Something's off. We need to know what this is about." Suddenly, the lion man turned red with fury at the woman, and out of nowhere, he swung toward her, the momentum palpable in the air, as if every heartbeat had bated breath. "You dare?" Raylan's entire body tensed, and she let out a quick breath, adrenaline spiking as she prepared for the collapse of civility around them. She felt the weight of Braxton behind her, an ever-present wall shielding her from the tempest of colliding egos. A fist flew, connecting with flesh in a brutal arc of chaos, and gasping guests collectively recoiled, the outburst ripping through their aura of elegance. As bodies scrambled to regain control, Raelynn and Braxton exchanged a knowing look, their shared breath signaling the urgency for escape. "Follow me," he commanded quietly, and together they slipped back through the fluttering throng, hearts pounding as they navigated through the swell of chaos, a now familiar rhythm of unity against the oncoming storm. Lasting breaths drifted past them, and as the chaos ensued around them, a flicker of laughter bubbled beneath the tension of their moments together. "You know, I was hoping for a serene evening," Raelynn quipped, her smile emerging despite the pandemonium. Braxton chuckled softly, the tension easing ever so slightly. "I should have known better than to book the island during storm season." As they slipped into a side exit, a cacophony still echoing behind them, the flicker of danger transformed into something altogether more profound, a shared adventure not easily forgotten. Scene 47. Art under siege. The gallery buzzed with the hushed sense of chaos that clung to vibrant canvases lit by dramatic spotlights. Raelynn Barrett paced near the entrance, meticulously adjusting the positioning of a delicate sculpture, a glass figure of a dancer, her form frozen in mid-pirouette, sunlight refracting off its crystal surface. Each minuscule tilt mattered, each placement held weight. This wasn't just art, it was her sanctuary. A world where she had carved a place for herself amidst the tangled facade of her family's history. Braxton Vale, leaning against the opposing wall, observed her with an intensity that both anchored and unsettled her. His arms crossed, a storm brewing in his deep-set eyes as silence filled the spacious gallery. "You know you can't just hide behind those pieces forever, right?" he said, voice low yet firm, cutting through her reverie. Raelynn turned, glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, giving him a fleeting smile. "I'm an art curator, Braxton. Hiding is part of the job." She waved towards a vivid landscape painting, colors bleeding into one another, so unlike the turmoil swirling around them. A heavy silence settled, punctuated only by the faint hum of overhead lights. Braxton stepped closer, the space between them thickening with unspoken tension. "You think adjusting that statue will fix everything?" "Raelynn," he said, emphasizing her name like a plea, "we're being played. You deserve to know the truth of what's happening here." She hesitated, clutching a thin clipboard against her chest. "And you think yelling about it is going to help? Or storming in like some hero?" Her voice edged with sarcasm, biting at the purpose behind his concern. The resentment slithered into her tone, cornering them both with the weight of their unsaid feelings. A crash echoed from somewhere deeper within the gallery, pulling at their conversation like the tide, plunging them back into the present. What was that? Raylan's pulse quickened as she shot Braxton a fearful glance. Lively chatter had slipped into anxious murmurs around them, patrons shifting, looking for exits. "Stay here," Braxton commanded, but Raylan's instinct was to follow. She could taste the metallic tang of adrenaline as she flanked his side, determination shimmering in her eyes. I'm not staying out of this. If something is going to happen, I want to be with you. She gripped his hand for strength, her heart racing, a mix of fear and something else, something that felt dangerously like need. Another crash reverberated, this one closer, invasive. Cautiously, they moved deeper into the gallery. The walls were adorned with vivid art, nothing more than vibrant placeholders against the looming shadows of betrayal. His protective gaze flared, urging her back, but her resolution held firm. I won't be a pawn in this. I know you want to protect me, but there's something bigger at stake. As they turned a corner, chaos erupted. Figures clad in black burst from the back rooms, chaos unwillingly waged within the sanctuary of art. Braxton instinctively pushed Raelynn behind him, his body a solid wall of resolve. Get down, he shouted as the gallery reverberated with urgent chaos. Raelynn crouched, eyes wide but unyielding. She could see the tension of betrayal twist in Braxton's jaw as he eyed their attackers, the familiar spark of danger igniting not just fear but a sense of electrifying thrill. The shouts morphed into an electrifying dance of confrontation. Braxton lunged forward, tackling one of the intruders just as Raelynn spotted another, attempting to drag away a priceless painting. Enraged, she grabbed a nearby art piece with wide, defensive strokes at her salvation. She swung it hard, adrenaline ringing in her ears as it connected with the intruder's arm. Not today, she shouted, her voice reverberating with courage. The moment was electric, fearful, yet exhilarating. You fight like you curate, Braxton said with a smirk, dodging a punch aimed at his side. And I embrace collections, she shot back, rushing alongside him to seize the moment, desperate to reclaim her space. Their strength became a swirling blend of resilience and tension, handling stolen art like a fortress as their fates intertwined amid the blur of chaos and betrayal. As they maneuvered through the gallery, a reckless audacity ignited within her. This was not just about survival. It was the essence of her life, her art. They paused, breathless and closer than ever, the remnants of panic fading into a charged silence. The warmth of his presence enveloped her, and in that fraught moment, she realized this wasn't just Braxton protecting her. This was them, wrestling together against the storm about to break. Raelynn, he whispered, the urgency etched in his brow. We face this together. She nodded, heart hammering, alive on the edge of danger, knowing they were now each other's safest space amid the unfolding chaos. Scene 48, caught by surprise. The rain battered against the expansive glass walls of the gallery, its patter a chaotic symphony that seemed to echo Raylan's spiraling thoughts. She stood by the large painting that now felt like a foreboding omen. The vibrant strokes of red and black mirrored the tumultuous storm outside, much like the turmoil inside her. Raelynn felt the weight of her lineage pressing down on her, a family history laced with ambition and shadows. She could almost hear her mother's voice, filled with both pride and scorn, pushing her to excel, to shine. But the voice was haunted by the echoes of their shared sins. Raelynn. Braxton's voice cut through the din, infusing her with a mix of relief and anxiety. He stepped through the entrance, water glistening on his tailored suit, his presence a magnet for her eyes. There was something electric about him, something dark and brooding, yet fiercely protective, a contradiction she had come to crave. "Did you find anything?" she asked, breaking eye contact as she turned toward the gallery's inner sanctum, as if the piece of art held the answers to her fate. "Daphne has gone too far this time," he replied, his expression steely. "I spoke to the board. The gallery is implicated in the Speicher scandal. They believe it was an inside job." Raylan's heart raced. "An inside job? You think Daphne? She's the only one with the access and the motive," he interrupted, frustration lacing his words. "Her desire for revenge runs deeper than you've realized, Raelynn. You need to see this for what it is." As the storm roared louder, a flash of lightning lit the gallery, illuminating Braxton's intense gaze, one that begged her to understand the stakes. "What are we going to do about it?" she asked, striving to maintain her composure. An underlying fear gnawed at her, the roots of which felt all too close to her family's legacy of betrayal. Braxton stepped forward, closing the distance between them, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We need to confront her. She can't be allowed to manipulate our future like this. Do you think I would betray my own family like that? Raelynn snapped, her voice rising with the tension. This is not just about you, Raelynn. It's about the gallery's future, your future. His words hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Behind them, the gallery doors swung open, and a group of their friends arrived. Jasmine, Derek, and Cleo, their faces drenched from the rain but spirits undampened. Raelynn, you look like you've just seen a ghost, Cleo teased, her infectious laughter weaving through the room. Or caught in a thunderstorm of your own drama, Derek chimed in. Very funny, Raelynn shot back, but the levity in the air began to lift the weight on her chest, if only slightly. There's a torrential downpour outside, and you're here arguing about galleries? Jasmine grinned, shaking off her umbrella. We came to rescue you, but it looks like you're the one who needs to be saved. Hardly, Braxton replied, his tone clipped. What we need is a plan to deal with the very real threat that she poses. Daphne? Derek's brow arched in surprise. We've had our problems, but she wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the gallery, would she? It's more complicated than that, Raelynn said, her heart pounding in rhythm with the rain. I'm finding out that I may be more connected to all of this than I thought, and I can't just let her sink us all. Lightning flashed again, illuminating their little assembly in a dramatic spotlight, intensifying Raylan's resolve. Let's figure this out as a team, Jasmine suggested, her eyes shining with determination. We need everyone involved. As they plotted and debated, the group began to fracture into smaller arguments, each friend pulling for their own take, laughter and banter intermingling with simmering tensions. Cleo stood with her hands on her hips, declaring her unwavering belief in Raelynn. She just needs to stand up to Daphne, she said. No one's going to question her authority if she believes in herself. Easier said than done, Braxton shot back, frustration knitting his brows. Daphne is not just a foe. She's been around long enough to outsmart us all. A chuckle escaped Raelynn in spite of herself. Well, if she thrives on outsmarting, then perhaps it's time we flip the script. That's the spirit, Derek exclaimed, realizing perhaps too late how his support of Raelynn had abruptly turned the atmosphere electric, the jump in the conversation pulling them back together. Raylan's eyes locked with Braxton's, both reflecting the spark of a shared purpose, a silent promise. A storm was brewing, both outside and within, but perhaps together they could navigate the tangled web of their pasts and futures. Let's get to work, then, she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. Daphne won't see us coming. As the rain pounded relentlessly, the fury of the tempest mirrored the charge in the room. With every second that passed, the storm outside felt less about the weather and more about the chaos brewing within their lives, chaos that they were now determined to face together. Scene 49, a moment of clarity. The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the secluded terrace where walls of lush greenery framed the expansive ocean view. The air was thick with the salty tang of the sea, mingled with the wild blooms that spilled over from pots overflowing with vibrant colors. It felt like a world apart, a sanctuary forged from the chaos that had unfolded within these days. Yet the tension in the air shimmered as dramatically as the waves crashing against the rocks below. Raelynn leaned against the railing, her heart racing slightly as she stared out at the undulating horizon, contemplating the tumult of her last few weeks. Braxton stood beside her, his broad shoulders pulled back with an effortless grace, but she could sense the gravity of unsaid words clinging between them like an invisible thread. What do you truly want, Raelynn? Braxton asked, his voice low, almost drowned out by the whispering sea breeze. It was a simple question, yet it dripped with the weight of their shared past, shaking her to the core. Raelynn turned to him, the sunlight illuminating the determination etched into his features. I want to be free, she started, her voice steady yet betraying the quiver of uncertainty that lurked beneath. Free from the shadows of my family, from the fables of who I am supposed to be. She hesitated, the words tumbling out like unfinished thoughts. But every time I think I'm close, the past pulls me back in. Freedom is a heavy concept. Braxton studied her intently, the intensity of his gaze making her pulse quicken. You believe its pursuit will provide clarity, yet sometimes it leads to chaos. He turned slightly, the wind catching a loose strand of hair that fell across his brow, revealing the depth in his dark eyes. And chaos is what we've had enough of. She felt a swell of frustration mixed with connection, a longing to bridge the chasm between their souls. What about you, Braxton? What do you want? If it's clarity, then why do we keep spinning in circles? With a breath that seemed to fill the entire terrace, he closed the space between them, standing close enough that she could sense the heat radiating from his presence. I want you, he said softly, the admission hanging heavily in the air, but I can't shield you from the storm that brews in the unknown. Raelynn glanced back out to sea, forcing herself to breathe as confusion danced at the edges of her heart. You think I haven't faced storms before? You don't understand what it's like to battle with your own lineage. The bitterness slipped into her tone, and she instantly felt shaky in her resolve. To feel like a shadow no matter how bright you shine. A wave crashed violently, sending a plume of salty spray into the air, scattering the scent of brine around them like a shroud. Then let me help you face them. Braxton's voice dipped, filled with earnestness that turned the cool ocean air warm. I've been standing at the edge of your shadows for too long, Raelynn. I won't hide anymore. She felt emotions swell within, a fierce whirlpool of vulnerability and passion. You think standing beside me means you can protect me? For a moment, her defenses crumbled. I can't let you get caught in my chaos. He reached out, brushing his fingertips across her arm, the contact sending a jolt through her. It's not your chaos, it's ours. Together we can face whatever comes. Isn't that worth fighting for? Raelynn looked into his eyes, catching a glimpse of the man who had seen the depths of her struggle and still remained. The air hummed with unsaid longing, the world around them fading as her heart ached to surrender to that connection. I want to believe that, she whispered, equally exhilarated and terrified. But what if letting you in means losing everything? Braxton's eyes searched hers, and in that moment, it felt as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for her answer. Maybe, he said, his tone low and fervent. But sometimes we must lose ourselves to find what really matters. The sun began to dip toward the ocean's edge, painting the sky in fiery strokes as they stood united in that fragile moment, knowing their true journey was just beginning. Scene 50, Dangerous Alliances. The late afternoon sun streamed through the vast windows of the gallery, casting geometric patterns onto the polished floor and illuminating the dazzling array of contemporary art. Raelynn Barrett stood before a striking installation, her fingers trembling slightly as she adjusted its placement in an almost ritualistic fashion. It was a mundane task on the surface, yet today it felt like an expedition into the heart of her turbulent emotions, laden with the weight of unspoken truths. Braxton Vale lingered nearby, observing her with a fierce intensity that made her pulse quicken. His dark eyes, always enigmatic, were now alive with a mixture of concern and something she couldn't quite place. He leaned against the pristine wall, arms crossed, the slight tension in his posture indicating he was restrained but ready. Is this where you want it? Raylan's voice was steady, but a subtle tightness in her throat hinted otherwise. Closer to the edge, he suggested, an edge of authority woven through his tone, though it felt softened by an undertow of protectiveness. She shifted the piece slightly, scrunching her eyes against the daylight that poured in. Like this? Perfect, he replied, but he lingered on the word, his gaze holding hers a beat longer than necessary. There was an electric charge in the air, a dance of unvoiced feelings tangled within the fray of their chaotic lives. Raelynn took a breath, filling her lungs with the scent of fresh paint and varnished wood, mingling with the heady aroma of the coffee brewing in the gallery's small kitchen. It was invigorating, yet strangely nostalgic, a reminder of the many late nights spent working, drowning in her ambitions. But now, a flickering shadow of vulnerability crept in. Would it all unravel before her, like a masterful art piece ripped away from its frame? Suddenly, the quiet was pierced by the entrance of her assistant, Sasha, who burst through the gallery doors. Raelynn, you won't believe what I just overheard in the lounge. Her voice was an excited crescendo, her breathless energy refreshing against the weighted atmosphere. Raelynn turned, breaking the gaze with Braxton, her heart plummeting. What is it? It seems a collector was talking about a rare piece from your father's collection, a piece that could be pivotal for the exhibition. Sasha's brown eyes sparkled with eager mischief, drawing the attention of a small group of staff members who had been casually chatting nearby. What do you mean pivotal? Raelynn asked, her pulse racing. That piece is a volatile part of my past. Exactly, Sasha said, her enthusiasm unyielding. But it could also be your golden ticket. You can redeem the narrative. Make it yours. Just then, another voice chimed in. Blake, the gallery's finance manager, strolled over, his expression unfolding into mock seriousness. You do realize that piece comes with a heavy legacy, don't you? Family secrets, scandals, and disappearances, oh my. He paused for dramatic effect, earning a cascade of laughter that lightened the mood. Catch me in my next life as a soap opera star, Raelynn snapped back, a playful smirk revealing her wit. But beneath her teasing exterior, her heart thundered, each beat drumming out a warning against the thrill of revisiting her history. Still, it's dangerous, Braxton weighed in, his voice lowered enough that it felt like a secret, yet the tension was palpable. Be careful with the alliances you forge, Raelynn. They can lead to unexpected consequences. An uncomfortable silence washed over the group, and Blake broke it with a light clap. Let's direct our energies elsewhere, yeah? Anyone who knew this gallery could tell you that that piece can either become your salvation or your downfall. Sasha nudged Raelynn playfully. What's it going to be, girl? Fame or your past? Raelynn took a breath, the room filled with an exhilarating mix of humor and fear. Perhaps a bit of both, she answered, her gaze drifting back to Braxton. Their eyes locked once more, a world of weighty affection exchanged in silent understanding. She felt the energy shift, alive and electric, filling the void between thoughts with possibility and secrets. Let's explore the ramifications together, he offered softly, stepping closer, his presence grounding her in this tempest. A manageable risk? Raelynn replied, the challenge sparking a playful fire as her heart swelled with reckless ambition. Only if we call it a thrilling adventure, Braxton countered, his smile half seduced by the gravity of their shared journey. As the laughter and banter resumed, shadows clung to the edges of the gallery, but Raelynn found solace in the warmth of connection and the promise of what lay ahead. Perhaps this alliance, dangerous as it was, held the key to forging her identity and salvaging the tapestry of her past. Scene 51, Betrayal Unveiled. The air shimmered with humidity, thick like the tension that crackled among the gathered guests at the sprawling seaside estate. The sound of waves crashing against the rocky shore morphed into a percussive rhythm, underscoring the chaotic emotions bubbling to the surface inside the ornate gallery. Raelynn stood rigid, her gaze flitting between the faces around her, each smile masking a potential threat. What do you mean you saw him, Marissa? Raylan's voice rose, stubbornly piercing the din of the gathering. Marissa, with her hair cascading like golden silk over her shoulder, looked caught off guard. I thought you should know. I saw Kyle meeting with... Raylan's sharp glare silenced her, but the damage was done. Meeting with whom? Braxton's voice, low and steady, dripped with curiosity and concern as he emerged from the shadows, a storm brewing behind his dark eyes. The crisp navy of his designer blazer contrasted sharply against the pastel decor, a testament to his commanding presence. Let's not draw any conclusions here, Marissa interjected too quickly, her voice tinged with nerves. Kyle's just been a little off lately. A little off? Raelynn scoffed, folding her arms tightly across her chest. Is that how we describe a man sneaking around when he's supposed to be planning my exhibition? Braxton stepped closer to Raelynn, his warm breath brushing against her ear. Let's think this through. We need facts, not assumptions. The way he leaned in sparked an emotional warmth in Raelynn that momentarily chased away her frustration. I trusted him, Raelynn snapped, pulling away from Braxton, her heart pounding as she paced the polished marble floor. The scent of fresh sea air, usually calming, now suffocated her with the weight of betrayal. I thought he was my friend, but why would he be with someone involved in the heists? Raelynn, Braxton's tone softened, but his intensity remained unwavering. We don't know the whole story. It could be innocent. Show me one innocent reason he'd be talking to Victor Turner. Raelynn shot back, her voice echoing against the gallery walls. the vibrant canvases suddenly feeling like they were closing in. He's the one link to all the art thefts, Marissa interjected, her usual playful demeanor turning serious. Maybe he's just trying to extract information. There's no reason to jump to conclusions. Except you just did. Raelynn felt her frustration morphing into something deeper, a churning storm of anger and vulnerability. The empathy in Braxton's expression made her feel as if she was being seen, truly seen, and it only fueled her further. I'm sorry, but I'm not about to take Kyle's side over the potential safety of this entire collection. Raylan's hands shook, the pressure of uncertainty forcing tears to prick at her eyes. Hey, a little honesty here. Chaz, a jovial friend, stepped forward, trying to lighten the mood, but his expression faltered under the weight around them. If we all turn on each other, then who's left to deal with Victor? Exactly, Marissa chimed in, her face flushed. We can't get caught up in guessing games based on rumors and speculation. Then what do you suggest we do? The fire in Raylan's voice ignited, and even she knew she was veering dangerously close to crossing a line. We keep an eye on Kyle, Braxton calmly stated, cutting through the tension like a knife, his presence grounding. We gather more information. But Raelynn, you need to manage your fears before they consume you. The gallery felt like a stage, with every eye now on Raelynn, judging, questioning. She could feel the tide of doubt washing over her, but it was Braxton, unwavering and fierce, who anchored her. I can't just stand by, Raelynn whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Then don't, Braxton replied, stepping closer again, his voice wrapping around her like a warm embrace. But do it with a strategy. Lashing out won't get you anywhere. The weight of his gaze turned the air electric. Raylan's heart raced, caught between fear and something like relief over the bond they shared, the intensity pulling her closer despite the chaos surrounding them. They were here together, and it felt like they could weather any storm, but shadows still loomed over them. Just promise me you'll be careful. Braxton's sincerity dangled in the heated air. Raelynn took a deep breath, letting it out slowly, as if releasing her fears into the tide. I promise, she murmured, searching his eyes, her heart aligned with the rhythm of the chaos. The world outside roared like a tempest, but for a moment, amid the betrayals and uncertainties, they stood together, steady against the turmoil of not just the gathering, but of their entwined fates. Scene 52, a rallying call. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the opulence of Braxton Vale's estate, where the scent of jasmine mingled with the salty breeze from the nearby sea.